Welcome to Slight Reliability, learning SRE one day at a time. I'm Stephen Townsend. Welcome to Slight Reliability. I'm Stephen Townsend, and this is the show where we learn SRE one day at a time. I am here the second day of AWS reInvent in Las Vegas. I haven't had a chance to get around the conference yet and meet a lot of other people other than those who've come to our booth. But one thing I've noticed is not a single SRE has come by yet. I think it's very easy when you work in SRE or observability to feel like everyone's into it, and it's a big thing for everyone, but it's not necessarily. Might just be this event as well. There's a lot of people from different backgrounds. But one thing I've been thinking about is what is observability? Because like I work for SquaredUp, we have a product, and you could say it's related to observability, could say it's something else, and I'm curious about what people think observability is. Of course, there's the metrics, logs, traces, like that's the simple, clear definition that people use. I often think about a bigger picture view of observability, which is not just about metrics, logs, and traces, but also other kinds of data focused around customer and the customer experience and how that's going, and also the success of the business and how well it's running. I thought I'd go around reInvent and ask people what observability is to them, to see what different perspectives are out there. So let's see what they have to say.
Observability, by its formal definition, is the ability of the system to be known by its external outputs. So when you think about that, in terms of the three pillars of observability you read about, logs, metrics, and traces, that's what a lot of people have. A lot of systems are generating that as output, but that's overwhelming in terms of the volume and complexity in modern apps. So you think about, there's a study that on retail, there's an average of 17 different steps within the average transaction of a retail application. So that's a lot of complexity, and just knowing the metrics on a particular component is not enough. So with observability, to make it all work, we need the topology in which it's operating on. We need to understand the metrics and contracts of the processes, the services, the end user. So it's really putting it all together, and we need to do that in an automated way because the amount of data is too much and too overwhelming.
So it's basically insight to the information that matters most to you. So if you think about the word observability, the root of that is observe, right? Being able to watch. So I think the birth of observability data was being able to capture endpoint data and to look at that endpoint data from like a single centralized point, right, or platform. I think the future of observability is being able to take all of the information, harness it, and use it in data lakes, right? Because at this point we've realized that with observability data it's overwhelming because there's so much of it. And so I think personally, like our mission has been as a company to make it manageable again. And so I think the future where we'll see observability data go is data lakes that are now searchable data lakes, where people no longer have to worry about actually ingesting or storing observability data. They can look at it at rest wherever it is, and then they can figure out what they want to do with the data based off what they're seeing.
So observability is basically taking monitoring to the next level. Monitoring usually, especially in the older days, kind of told you something was wrong, sometimes told you perhaps imprecisely what was wrong, but it didn't give you the why oftentimes. So we like to say that the monitoring is the what and observability is the why. So it basically allows you to extend your observability across anything that collects telemetry data, such as metrics, events, logs, and traces, tie all of that data together, correlate it in one single pane of glass. I know that's an old, buzzword to use, but into a single pane of glass, more importantly into a single system, so that you can query that data, alert on that data, all from a centralized location, so that when something does go wrong in your system, you can get to the root cause of that much faster.
So observability is really having insight into how your applications and services are running, compared to like traditional monitoring that would be like CPU utilization and memory utilization and things about how the infrastructure is really holding up. Observability is giving you insights into what's going on with your applications, your services, and really having a view of your end users sort of perspective on how your applications and services are working.
Visibility is kind of a problem we've had for the last 20 years in the industry, and that's basically what data is in motion right now. If you were to ask people what's in flight, you don't know whether it's the private cloud, public cloud, and we have a solution that can actually do that for you, and that is deep packet inspection to see what the data actually is, what the protocols are, what the applications are. And there may be things out there communicating that you are unaware of. And to me, that's what the visibility is. It's a bottom-up approach. It's not replacing the top-down programmatic approach, but it's actually observing data and traffic in flight. So it's immutable, and it happened. And sometimes when the program or the top level, like guard duty, is telling you what's going on, it's not always what's being transmitted on the wire.
There's an old idea of what observability is, and it was born in the DevOps days, monitoring. But observability really is becoming more broad. I liken observability today to really a broad concept in building observable systems, and it's not just for observability or DevOps. It's for SecOps, FinOps, BI, DI, data science teams, digital transformation. It's everything that you need in system architecture and design and software development to be able to not only infer the internal state, but to drive business intelligence, real-time decision making. So I think if I were to really just boil it down, observability is everything. It encompasses everything to drive modern software design, software development business.
So I've talked to quite a few people about observability. Not surprisingly, some quite different perspectives. I think there's probably a continuum between thinking about observability as a way to deal with the complexity of large, complex distributed systems, so you can understand them and observe them and handle incidents, the very technical side of things. And then there's a growing idea of a bigger picture of observability that includes customer and business and brings that insight together, ultimately to see the impact of the technology decisions that you make on the health of your business and the experience and the behavior of your customers. So there's these two sort of paradigms, and I'm interested in both of those. I had never really thought too hard about security and its role in observability, so that was something a little bit new. Also, I think there's a bit of a trend of trying to consolidate data, put it all in the same place in a data lake or a data warehouse, to centralize it, to make it easier to access. And that's nice in theory, but I think you end up often in vendor lock-in, or just consolidating the data is really complex. And there's a growing concept around a data mesh. So sort of acknowledging that your observability data and your BI data will be spread over all kinds of different tools all over the place, and putting a mesh on top of that so you can pull the insight together from one place, which I think is a nice way to do things, because I think giving the teams the autonomy and the ownership to pick their own technology is a good thing and encourages good behaviors. So anyway, that's all from another very different episode of Slight Reliability, live from reInvent in Las Vegas. I'll be back next week with a bit more of a detailed reflection on the conference and what I learned and what I took away. See you next time.